Hello and welcome to my channel, I Went to Lose Gaming. So Albedo's been out for around 24 hours. Despite the fact I was only trying to get more Bennett's, miHoYo decided to give me Albedo as well. So now that I have him, what do I think about him? The following guide is for C0 Albedo. Let's start off with two ways to build him. One way is the more expensive way, to build him with tons of attack, ideally with a level 90 R5 Summit Shaper, and to rely on his burst damage for his damage output. Alternatively, you can build him as cheaply as possible with some defense artifacts and the Festering Desire, and this build focuses on maximizing his blossom damage on his elemental skill. So let's take a look and see how he performs as a passive DPS role in Abyss 12. His E-Blossoms will be doing about 4,000 to 10,000 damage each. Initially, this may not sound too impressive, but trust me, it adds up really quick. And a bit later in this video, I'll break down just how impressive it actually is. On top of this, Albedo allows me to easily run 2 Geo supports without having a completely deadweight character on the team. The 15% bonus damage from Geo Resonance is very powerful, akin to the 25% attack bonus from the 2 Pyro character Resonance. So that first run was pretty quick, but it might have been a little bit hard to tell just how much Albedo was doing when Klee was the main carry. But you could see that Albedo's damage was very impressive, even with Klee there. Anyway, this next run, I won't be using Klee much except to simply break the Cryo Fatui shield. Same for Diona, she'll mainly be there to break the Electro Fatui shield. Now, Zhongli's pillars resonate extremely well with Albedo's blooms, and I really like the synergy that the two of them have together. Combined with Zhongli's Meteor for crowd control, Albedo's Blossoms and Zhongli's Pillars are able to comfortably handle Abyss 12-1. And also, they're an extremely durable pair. I don't think I had to really dodge in this run. In fact, if Zhongli's Pillar buffs make it through, he could be doing nearly 3 times the amount of damage per tick. So with that in mind, it's likely that Zhongli plus Albedo could be doing close to Klee's level of damage with just their off-screen Geo damage. Even with my weak Albedo, this run was still a snug and comfortable 1 minute and 50 seconds. Anyway, we can see that in Abyss 12, he functions completely fine as a support DPS character. In fact, he is overperforming compared to my expectations. But let's do some additional theory crafting so we can plan ahead. As usual, for my theory crafting, I used maximized damage values. In practice, if you farm a lot of artifacts, you can get about 70 to 80% of the numbers on this sheet. If you farm for just some artifacts, you can do about 40 to 60% of the numbers on this sheet. So to put it into perspective, my Albedo is doing 5,500 damage per blossom tick on average, so mine's about 51% efficiency. Now, some of my long-term viewers will know that I always say it's only practical to take a character to about 70 to 80% of their damage potential through artifact farming, so my Albedo still has a long way to go before he reaches what I would consider his maximum practical potential. But you already saw how impactful he was in Abyss 12. But let's put this 10,721 maximized damage per blossom into perspective. If we utilize it for 30 seconds, the duration of his E skill, and get all 15 ticks off, factoring in the roughly 2 seconds it takes to switch Albedo in and cast it and switch off, Albedo can add about 5,000 DPS over 32 seconds. So what other ability is similar, where you click it and it passively adds damage for a certain duration? Why, it's Klee's Burst. So a damage maximized Klee's Burst does 76,519 damage over the duration of 11 seconds, 2 seconds for the cast time and 9 seconds for the laser firing duration. This amounts to an additional 6,956 damage per second. So a maximized Albedo with just his skill adds around 5200 DPS, while Klee's burst is about 7000 DPS. So Albedo's skill is basically like having 75% of Klee's burst up at all times to supplement your main carry, which is actually very impressive. So if you think Klee's burst is good, then really there's no reason that you shouldn't think Albedo's skill isn't good as well. Now, one thing to note about Albedo compared to attack-based characters is that his bloom damage goes up dramatically through leveling him up. At level 80, he does 16.16% less damage than a level 90 Albedo, which is way more compared to the roughly, 5% less damage for attack-based characters from level 80 to 90. Likewise, Albedo at level 70 does 31% less damage than the level 90 Albedo, so that's a lot less damage. Knowing this information, it's up to you to decide if you want to level him up or not, but I do plan to level him up to 90 because 16% more damage is quite a bit. Now let's talk about his best weapon options for this defense build. Here's a list of maximized values, and as you can see, the damage values are actually similar throughout. He's almost weapon agnostic, and the reason why he's almost weapon agnostic is because the only things from weapons that increase his blossom damage are crit rate, crit damage, and bonus damage. So that leaves the new free-to-play friendly Festering Desire as his best in slot weapon for maximizing his blossom damage. At R5, this is easily his best in slot weapon for a low investment, pure defense build. So all that theory crafting is cool, but let's go over my Albedo's build real quick. He has a bunch of level 20 artifacts that are defense, crit rate, and crit damage focused. For the timepiece, he's running a defense % timepiece. For the hat, you should run a crit focus stat, so really the main piece that's different from most other builds is the timepiece, which should be a defense % timepiece. For artifact sets, for this build, I think the Archaic Petra is likely his best option for the 15% bonus in geo damage. Now, the Noblesse Oblige is good too, but I don't find myself using his burst since his attack is so low, and I probably won't level up the Festering Desire up any more than I have to. But either set is good and you can mix and match them as well. Just know that both sets will work on Albedo pretty good. Now, as you can see, I don't have 4 good defense-focused Archaic Petra sets, so I'm using a mix and match of, the best defense-oriented artifacts that I have. The next question I'll ask is he worth it? I hate to admit it, but kind of. With this build, you need very little investment for him to contribute quite a bit to your party. But is it more than other supports like Bennett, Fischl, etc. can offer? I can't really give you a good answer for that since that really depends on your team comp, the mission, etc. But what I can say is that for how little I've invested into him, I'm quite happy with his performance. And keep in mind that he's next to, a very powerful Klee and a very powerful Zhongli as well, and he's still pulling his weight. But I also do feel like that he is probably the most replaceable member on my party. So speaking of which, let's talk about good teammates for Albedo. If you have a Ningguang carry or a Noelle carry, I think Albedo will fit perfectly with them. He will add free DPS to that carry as well as provide them the Geo Resonance boost for that team. Now, if you have a strong Geo support like Zhongli, well, Albedo and Zhongli are clearly very viable as a support duo in Abyss 12 from my earlier footage. If you have a slot in your team that isn't that valuable, Albedo can fill it in with his constant passive damage from his E skill. So really, he can fit on a lot of teams that aren't really too rigid. So do keep in mind that this free-to-play build is not designed to be a carry build, and honestly, Albedo's kit really doesn't make him a great carry. So if you guys plan to build a Albedo like this, you should focus on leveling him up, leveling up his skill, of course, getting refinements on the Festering Desire, and getting defense-oriented artifacts. Now, I'm not going to say that he's overpowered because I don't think he is, but he is quite good, especially with the free-to-play weapon, and I have no regrets investing into him so far. So there you go, a quick showcase demonstrating that C0 free-to-play Albedo is quite viable, even in Abyss 12. Of course, he is, getting carried by the rest of my team as well, but he's definitely pulling his weight. To summarize, he's basically an elevator blossom bot that can add up to 75% of Klee's burst worth of damage with just his elemental skill. If you go the more expensive attack % route with whale weapons, then he can do a ton of damage with his burst, but with a budget, defense, free-to-play build, this is what you can expect from him. Let me know what you guys think of this free-to-play friendly Festering Desire build. This is I Win to Lose, signing out.